Good morning, Justice Warriors. How are you guys? I am so sorry to be a couple of minutes late, or more than a couple, right? Even when I changed the time, I still am late. So, yeah, it's just, I always say one thing after another. If it's not one thing, it's your mother. So, how's everybody doing? How is the weekend? Let me make sure my hat is not obscuring my face too much. I mean, just a little is good, right? Um, so I saw your question, Dilly Owens, about did you paint these flowers? No, though that's a photograph of the botanical gardens, Bellevue Botanical Gardens on the east side of Seattle. And that was one of my favorite things living in that area was the Christmas lights at the Bellevue Botanical Gardens. There's not a lot of places that do it like that. I think Bucart Gardens in Victoria, which I've actually never been to. I've been to Victoria, but not the Bucart Gardens. But I've heard that they are similar. I don't know about better, possibly, maybe. I don't know if you could get any better than the Bellevue Botanical Garden Christmas light sculpture extravaganza. It's crazy. It's way cool. Anyway, enough about the artwork. Let's get into the show. Oh my goodness. So I will start with a drink of water. One more. Sorry. I did take some before I started. There's just never enough water, just like there's never enough time, never enough money, never enough fame and fortune for some. I mean, I'm not that way. I don't feel like I need things like those. I really don't. I say it again and again. I need my sanity. I need the love in my family. And, of course, nourishment, spiritual as well as physical. But let's just get right into the meat and potatoes, as my friend Harsh likes to say. Not that we're friends. I wouldn't, mischaracterize that. We are colleagues on a internet, right? Never met the man. So, it's funny. I mean, I think we all feel like we're friends sometimes, right? But everything I say is my opinion only. It's simply for the sake of conversation, hoping to start a discussion and become educated and hoping to be educational. My videos are made specifically for the YouTube platform, which, as we all know, is an entertainment platform. So there we go. Please hit that like button, share, and subscribe if you feel so moved. And I wanted to pick up right where we left off last night because I was pretty excited about it. I don't know about you guys, but I always try to review my videos shortly after I make them so that I can make sure I didn't miss anything, make sure I can take care of any corrections. I think I said something at the beginning of my video yesterday about trying to have something brilliant for you guys. Please don't think that I'm brilliant because au contraire, my mod was like, you should practice saying that word amogaly or whatever that medical term was about the head, the brain tumor thing. I was just like, yeah, really? I think I've got about a million other things at the top of my priority list. I don't care if I misenunciate or don't know, how do you Googleize at somebody's funeral? I didn't make that up. I got to get credit over to Ben Stillen for that in his you googly, right? Okay. So anyway, I love speaking wrong. I do. It's been something I've done my whole life. I correct myself when I can, but I love it when other people speak wrong too, because I just think it's adorable, especially our kids. So we left off with, well, this is what I added right after. I want to hit home again. The fact that that knife sheath was wiped clean, apparently, almost clean. That's what leads me to believe that it was planted by the perpetrator. I don't feel like somebody else planting it would have wiped it clean. They would have left some DNA on it like was there. So that's why I think that possibly somebody else planted it there. But that's why I don't think it fell accidentally. I don't think he would have tried to wipe it all down clean unless he knew it was going to fall, quote unquote, accidentally. I think he placed it there. And I think he placed it there to throw off the investigation towards military, right? Towards Marine specifically. For all we know, in our wild conspiracy theory, there was something to do with that guy who got taken out by the SWAT team, the Purple Heart Army vet. I'm not saying that there was. There's no evidence of that. You just never know. You have to leave no stone unturned. You have to keep an open mind when going into an investigation. The worst thing an investigator, a detective can do is think right away that they got the person and then have that tunnel vision. And even if it is the right person, the defense attorney can really use that against the prosecution and to the advantage of the defendant by demonstrating that they didn't look any other directions. They didn't look up registered sex offenders or what have you. So, like I've said again and again, you never have a slam dunk case, and you never know what other factors there may be. Like perhaps they have the right person. It certainly appears that way. The criminal defendant, who, as we all know, is presumed innocent until proven guilty into a court of law, because we live in the United States of America, where that's how we roll, right? And so that's how I want to roll my channel. Never to try to defend somebody who's done something so heinous, but simply to defend our constitutional rights and our system that is not perfect. It's far from perfect, but it's much better than many, so I hear. I haven't traveled the world. I've only traveled America, so I don't want to pretend that I know anything that I don't know. I try to share with you guys things that I do know. I try to share with you things that I've gleaned. And then I love it when you can share with me things that you've gleaned and that you've learned and that you know. I mean, as much as I love an education from like the Ivory Tower, the book kind of source, real life experience is the best education, period. You don't need anything in a book if you have real life experience, in my opinion. However, we can communicate a great deal with the power of the written word, where we can extend what we have learned to share it with others who can then glean from it, right? So anyway, here I am. I feel like sometimes I just find myself on this soapbox. I like to kick it out from under my butt and move right along. So thanks so much for being here, you guys. Good morning to everyone. And I didn't get to where we left off. So we left off that perhaps one of Dylan Mortensen's relatives is the county prosecutor, the DA, right? Is it? Has anybody had a chance to look it up? Honestly, I haven't. I went to bed and, did not get to look that one up. Dylan's mom allegedly might work for Idaho University. That would kind of make sense why the news media has put a protective shield around Dylan and Bethany. If her father is connected like that, or her uncle, I don't know if this person who is allegedly with her last name, who's a county prosecutor in a next town over, or next county over, or a couple counties over, I don't know if that's her father allegedly, or an uncle, or somebody else, if anybody knows. GOP Nick says, I read Dylan's dad as a prosecutor and sent Maddie's mom to jail, and also dealt with Xana's mom. Wow. So I've mentioned this television show to you guys that is absolutely simply brilliant, completely genius. And it's called Chance. And it was a Hulu original, produced by Hugh Laurie, the guy who did House, that actor. So he stars in it. He plays a psychologist or psychiatrist, I think a psychologist, like a forensic psychologist. And the show centers around a homicide detective. And it's only 3 seasons, and it's just magnificent. It's so intelligent and riveting. I highly recommend it if you need something to binge on, but it's only 3 seasons, so I apologize for that. But as you get into the shows, and it's a little bit of a spoiler alert, so if you're gonna get into them, then, close your ears. But we find out it's not so much the homicide detective that's so dangerous. It's the prosecuting attorney who's even more dangerous. And it's kind of hard to wrap your mind around that, in my opinion, in my experience, until I saw that um, dramatized in that amazing Hulu original. And then I was like, oh, that's what people are talking about when people talk about things like that, because it mimics real life, you guys. So I'm not accusing this prosecuting attorney of doing nothing, okay? Nothing. I'm just saying it's a good show. Check out Chance if you haven't already. 3 seasons, probably like 8 to 10 episodes per season, probably like an hour each. It's been a while. I can't remember. It's so good. I could rewatch the whole thing. Seriously. It's one of those. It's freaking phenomenal. And my favorite character is D. And we'll just leave it right there. Okay. So, thank you for that comment, GOP Nick. And so is Dylan's dad, mother, is she an employee at Idaho University? Because that would be a big deal too, especially if she's, way up in the administration. That would be a huge deal. And did you get the email I sent you with his info? I did, Sifa. Thank you so much. You're amazing. And yeah, looking at that, I couldn't figure out for sure because it says all of his relatives and Dylan wasn't listed. So I thought perhaps an uncle, because I thought I had heard an uncle, but I've also heard father, so I just want to be sure. I don't want to be assuming that it's her father when she was not even listed on the list of 10 relatives. And she's 20. She's 19, so maybe that's why she's not on there. Because I do remember that there was a 20-year-old, I think a 21-year-old, maybe even a 23-year-old. So maybe that's why she's not on there, is because maybe it's a couple years old and she was still a minor, perhaps. Perhaps as simple as that. So if it is her dad, then it looks like she has a handful of siblings, and maybe she's the youngest. And again, unless there's more minors that aren't listed. So thanks again, Sifa. Thank you for that. That's awesome. Thank you, Annie Ruler. I am a human robot and I am perfect. No, I love being imperfect. I love just accepting other people, warts and all. And, that's all we can do. So we can try our hardest and we can laugh at ourselves and just, keep on keeping on. Something about the big black truck was something to do with Dylan, and that is connected somehow. I can't remember, saw it on the Theorizing Theorist. I love the Theorizing Theorist in theory. We need to be careful with the Theorizing Theorist because he runs amok. That's his shtick. That's his niche that he's created for himself on YouTube. So he comes up with these wild, outrageous theories and speaks of them as though they are factual. But then he says, hey, I'm the Theorizing Theorist. This is just a theory. So we just need to be careful with that. And I think that he's got a lot of insight and that it's good to, look at things from different perspectives. So the black truck, I've heard things, vaguely and loosely. I've never seen something documented that had any convincing for me. I've heard that there was a big black truck that might have been going by the address of 1122 King Avenue, 10 minutes before the white Elantra. And then that big truck with big monster truck wheels, I've seen photographs that I was led to believe came from Dylan's social media where she's standing in front of the truck or something. I have no idea whose truck that is. I have no idea if that truck is relevant, but there's definitely a theme throughout this story so far that truck could be relevant. Sifa says sometimes it's because she isn't 21. A lot of the times they are younger, they won't be listed. Right. And then I was reading something last night that was saying that she was 21 or something. It was incorrect. And it was jumping around saying that she was different ages. Can't remember what it was. I was reading it, but I was like, come on, people, get with it. She's 19 and you can't say she's two different ages in the same document, right? I mean, we have to be so careful with the internet. I mean, everybody makes mistakes, and especially when people are covering multiple stories. This is one reason why I like to hyper focus on one story at a time, especially when the names are all so similar, like Kaylee and Kylie and Kylan and Kyle. Okay. I read a lot of the comment sections on various channels, and there is so much information. Obviously, I'm fact checking, but it makes good mental chewing gum. And I think you probably meant to say, obviously, I'm not fact checking. I know. And it is fascinating, you guys. I highly recommend doing that, reading the comments in chat and reading comments in people's videos. It takes a lot of time, and if I see somebody has 1,000 comments on their video, I'm probably not going to read a single one of them. But sometimes just go to the top one that the content creator pinned. If there's a pinned comment, it's usually very relevant, and then sometimes there's a lot of responses to the pinned comment. If you have time and the inclination, there's a lot of information that I think is relevant and meaningful in YouTube video comment sections. Of course, take it with a grain of salt because it's just in a video comment section. And I think there's a lot of misinformation. And I absolutely 100% know for a fact that there's disinformation that people will intentionally drop in your chat or drop in your comments. And I delete that crap usually. Once in a while, I'll just address it, but usually I just delete it because that's how trolls roll, you guys, is they plant seeds of doubt, and it's screwed up, and I want to address that. Let's see, but I also want to keep up with your comments so I don't get behind, because that is always hard. Good morning, everybody. Okay, I'm not face checking, don't have the time. GOP Nick, I think you meant fact checking. Definitely, Dylan is younger, definitely not drinking age, right? In some places, drinking age is 18. Most places, it's 21. Um, predictive text is killing me. I know, GOP Nick, I feel your pain. I hate it. And sometimes you don't notice it. And then you're just like, oh my goodness, what did I say? So nuts, isn't it? I think it's hilarious. GOP Nick Sifa says, I saw bizarre comments in Harsh yesterday. Well, because Harsh is very influential right now. He's kind of like the it guy. I mean, he is. He's doing great. And, he's had a lot of issues with his content creation just because he's said in his videos that he's had sick family members and, a, handful of a variety of things. So, he's usually at the top of his game. He does a great job, but the trolls are going to go after him because they know that he has a very strong following. So yeah, I see a lot of harsh comments in Harsh's comment section. And you know what? If you don't like Harsh's channel, don't watch. Hello. Get a grip. So yeah, they're just out to try to, take him out at the kneecaps. Hope D's mom is not Annie Ruler, girlfriend. This is why I love you. Thank you. You guys look at Annie's comment. Hope Dylan's mom is not in IT at the college, still unsure about reason why computers and cameras were off. Yes. Write that down, people. Take note. Just got my power back. We'll replay when you end the live, Miss Jazz. Hey, Miss Amir Zaza. I know you've said you're in South Africa and that happens a lot. I believe, in my opinion, the defense is sowing seeds of doubt. A few videos pin him just a driver. And, some of these content creators, it's my opinion that they're intentionally undermining things and they're planting those seeds of doubt, hoping that it'll spread by like wildfire or knowing that it'll spread like wildfire. And I am very suspicious, and I have tried to squelch some of what I think is disinformation, intentionally spreading bullshit. That's so messed up. Spreading misinformation is accidental. That's when you think you have accuracy and you don't, okay? And we need to be careful, just as careful with that, because that can be just as bad. But disinformation is vile. It's intentional, it's malicious, it's manipulative, and I don't like to speak negatively of other channels. You guys know that. And I have kicked a few names out there in the last few weeks, so I'm not going to kick out any names today. But there was a channel who tore up the screenshot of the surveillance camera footage from the back of the corner club, from camera 3, the night of the brutality, the night of the slaughtering, roughly about 2.5 hours before it happened. And Jack D is in that photograph talking to the girls, sitting inches from them. And Jack S is in that photograph. And Adam is in that photograph. And the man without a face who looks like Police Chief James Fry is in that photograph with his face missing and no explanation. And I'm not going to quit harping on that until it's proven that it's been vetted one way or another, whether it's not real, which I believe it's real, you guys. It was somebody took that picture with their telephone of the surveillance camera screen, which is why it has kind of, some weird graininess and things are curvy. It's not because it was photoshopped. It's not because it was cut and pasted. Somebody took that photograph and leaked it intentionally, in my opinion, to try to get the truth out there. So somebody that was there looking at that surveillance footage knew something and thought, what's this? They see this image and they're just like, what is this? But before they leaked it, for whatever reason, they smeared out the man with no face's face. And I want to know who that guy is. I don't care if it's not Chief Fry. I still want to know who it is and why. Why? Let's see. I love when Harsh says with a super straight face, Alpha David. Yeah, he is funny. He's good. He's really good. Your spell check issues went well with the previous comment of yours, GOP Nick. Oh, I know. That's so crazy. Where were the camera off? Where were the camera off? I'm not sure if you're talking about what I was just saying about the surveillance camera, or are you talking about what Annie Ruler was saying, the night or the morning of the quadruple homicide, unaliving, excuse me, at 6:30 in the morning, the servers for the university were down. So they had been checked at 11:30 at night, to my understanding, and they were running correctly. And then they were randomly checked at 6:30 a.m. The system was set up like that, and they were down. And it was Nerdy Addict who discovered this in his Nerdy Addict research. And he contacted the authorities and let them know that he specialized in this and he knew what it meant. And he also knew that he didn't know some things, like he didn't know if it was intentionally down. He didn't know if it was a routine check. He didn't know why it was down. He just knew that it was down at 6:30 in the morning. So he didn't know how long it had been down. But the last regular check, the random check, was at 11:30. So sometime between 11:30 at night and 6:30 in the morning, the server to Idaho University was down. That's what she's talking about. I think that's your question right there. Do you think about DM mom? So I don't know. It was my mod last night who informed us as a group. I had never heard that before, that Dylan's mother is an employee at Idaho University, which blew my mind. So I don't know. I don't really have any thoughts about it yet, other than that if it's true, it has a lot of bearing. Oh my, do you think that about DM mom? Or making a huge deal of the smaller issues. There you go, Lisa. Yeah, or just sending people down rabbit holes or calling things rabbit holes that aren't rabbit holes. Calling people conspiracy theorists when they are just trying to see things from all angles. And again, if there's more than one person involved and they planned it, it's a conspiracy. Like that word is so misused and it's used as a weapon. Like, conspiracy this, conspiracy that. If it was two people, they conspired. If it was planned, if it was not planned, then it wasn't. Entire colleges, cameras, and computers went down eve of 12, morning of 13th. Nerdy Addict did a video. Thank you, Annie Ruler. Yes, it's an excellent video. I'm so glad I caught that one. Unsolved No More called them out for the same reasons you were mentioning. Oh, I'm not that familiar with Unsolved No More. Where'd my pen go? I'm not even going to worry about it if I can't find it. I had it a second ago. Anyway, I'll catch it in the replay. Unsolved No More. Thank you. That's awesome. And I would love to check that out. And interesting, a lot of times that happens. There's content creators that are thinking the same things at the same time, because that's just sort of the next stage in the game in like-minded people. And, when I am carrying somebody's idea like Nerdy Addict, who did all that hard work and has all that knowledge, I want to give them a shout out. And if I have an idea that I got from Unsolved No More and don't realize I got it from Unsolved No More, I want to give them a shout out too. So sometimes that might happen, but sometimes it genuinely happens too, that one or more content creators is coming up with the same idea. I don't want to steal anybody's ideas. I sort of don't want anybody to steal my ideas, but if they're good ideas, I care more that the good idea is getting out there than I care about getting credit for it. But of course, it's nice to get a pat on the back, a little gold star, whatever. But to me, it's not as big of a deal as it might be for some other folks. But it's a big deal for me to make sure I give credit where credit's due. I just don't care so much about getting the credit, but I do care. I won't pretend that I don't. I've learned that about myself. I'm like, man, just give me a little shout out, just a little tiny shout out. If you think you need to. There's a photo of deceased BK looking identical to Jack D image in the bar that night. The cap, hoodie, beard, eerie resemblance, even with the age difference. Easy to think it's JD. So it is JD in that photograph. It is 100% JD. It's been confirmed ever since December 29th. The photo, the still shot was leaked on December 27th. I looked all this up to remember the timeline, because it was such a big deal when people were confirming that it was Jack D on December 29th. And I wasn't buying it just because it was getting confirmed all over the internet, all over the streets of YouTube. I was like, well, I'm not convinced. And then it was the very next day that the criminal defendant was arrested, and the whole concept was just dropped like dead in the water. And it took me a couple of weeks to go, wait a second, what about that screenshot? And what about that rumor that it was him? So since then, the family has confirmed, Kaylee's mother and father and sister have all confirmed that that's 100% him in that picture talking to the girls, which is not either one of the two alibis that were thrown out there. One alibi was he was asleep at his house. The other alibi was that he was asleep at his parents' house 90 minutes away. And there's never been an explanation of why that information was hidden. So that gets me. That's the red flag, is when they're not being transparent. And there's more to this case. We are being lied to, in my opinion. And, there's always more to every case, because, they got to keep a poker face and, not compromise the integrity of the investigation. However, that whole transparency law, which is for the sake of public safety, there's a balance. Some things you keep under your hat and some things you must be transparent about, which is why initial 911 calls have their own category for that type of transparency. Initial 911 calls can be released much sooner than subsequent 911 calls when there's an investigation that's active or an active court case. So yes, trolls barked up the wrong tree with Zav Girl last week. It was funny. She just kept reading everybody comments, even theirs didn't miss a beat. That's great. And yeah, I want to apologize for anybody's comments that I miss. I'm gonna try to like speed through because like yesterday I was really slow trying to catch all of them. And I love that there's more comments that I can read, but I apologize if I miss your comment. And if you want to repeat it, that's fine too. If I missed it and you think I shouldn't miss it, as long as it's a good comment, right? Or if you think it's good, go for it. Um, if the defendant had access to videos and cameras on both campus security systems, right, moms AF, that's a big issue. If the defendant in his lab at his university, Wazoo, had access to live feed cameras, body cams, and things like the grub truck, that would be another way he could be stalking people or anybody. That's a way anybody can be stalking people. So yeah, the criminal defendant is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And I think it's so important to reiterate that again and again because he looks so guilty. And I think it's easy for people to forget. He might be guilty, but he also might not be. And he might be guilty and he might not be guilty alone. My opinion is that if he's guilty, there's no way there was not at least one accomplice or accessory before, during, or after the fact. And that's pretty much just the way life works. That's not exclusive to him. That's the way anything like this works. There's always accessories or accomplices before or during or after the fact. Always. They don't always get discovered. They don't always get prosecuted, but they're always there. Nobody lives in a vacuum, not even somebody who tries to live in a vacuum, not even a complete antisocial cipher does not live in a vacuum. I mean, the criminal defendant was a student teacher and, a doctoral student at the zoo. I saw that picture. I had the same feeling. I thought it was K family, but I have no clue. It definitely was Kay's family that if you're talking about confirming that that photograph is Jack. So agree, Heather Mosier. I like it when you say the man with no face or the man without a face. Yeah, because I don't know if it's a title of a movie. If it's not, it should be. Right? It probably is the title of a movie. Heather Mosier is way too much to this case. 40 FBI agents, please. Were there 40 FBI agents? See, I've missed that part. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's nuts. Um, so I wanted to go over a couple of the commonalities that we were discussing yesterday between this Idaho 4 case and Kylie Rodney's case because I am really wanting to shift some of the focus back into the Kylie Rodney arena. And then there's also the Trinity Backus, which to me, Kylie Rodney and Trinity Backus are kind of, I don't want to say one and the same, but they go hand in hand. So let me try to get caught up and then look at my notes again. Computers and my extension question is where did some of these kids get cash for such nice cars and afford being in I would think you're going to say sororities. And yeah, they've got great, nice tropical vacations. It seems like whenever they want. Lisa, I see why I told you to come here. Justice thinks about things and I love it. Oh, Sifa, you're so kind. Thank you. Great minds think alike, right? Right. Annie Ruler says sorority expensive to be in sorority. Right. Ridiculously expensive is my understanding, like thousands of dollars more than once a year, like probably every quarter, right? Every semester. So yeah, it's a big money thing. I mean, it's like a business network. If you're in a sorority or fraternity, that helps you with business contacts when you graduate and are trying to get a job. It helps you with your whole life, if throughout your life, being in the same Greek system as somebody is just a really great way to network. What is significant? Blackella says, oops, what is significance and implications of server being down? Good. Yeah, that's sent too quick on you. The significance of the server being down is if it was taken down intentionally, that would mean that it is a conspiracy, right? It would mean that unless it was the criminal defendant who took it down himself and nobody knew about it, then that would be perhaps to enable this heinous uh, series of evil deeds to be committed. So I have a lot of trouble in my mind really believing that somebody is going to think that they could go into a house with 6 people in it and people coming and going all hours of the day and night, and in a highly densely populated area with houses all around. There's not even, I mean, there's a tree line behind the house, but there's like no trees and bushes on most sides of the house, like where all the cars are parked and going around to the other houses on either side, the 1118 and 1126 King Road. There's no trees or bushes. Like, it's all wide open. A lot of those windows are wide open without curtains, without blinds, nothing. And then you've got the apartment buildings on the other side, and you've got fraternity house. I mean, you've just got all of these places with a pair of binoculars. People could be looking in from far away. It's hard for me to think that someone would think that they could go into a place with that many people, surrounded by that many people, even if it is 4 in the morning, and do that quickly all by their big old self, is how I like to say it. Okay. And Annie Ruler says, Blackella, just feel like surveillance was off. College campus cameras were likely nearby the forest. Oh, you think there might have been cameras like right behind in that tree line? Is that what you're saying, Annie Ruler? BK deceased. And I'm not sure what you mean when you keep saying BK deceased. I'm not sure who that is. Oh, I'm sorry. I do know. Brent Kopak, the guy from the Purple Heart from the Army, the 36-year-old that was deceased by the SWAT incident, right, Jeannie? Okay. BK deceased and Jack D resemblance. Oh my goodness. Interesting. I did not notice. The photo of BK is the thumbnail at True Crime Time, BK connection. Too easy to say it's Jack, in my opinion. Look at the photo. Well, again, it's not just people saying it looks like Jack, because that's what I thought when people said it was Jack. I'm like, it just kind of looks like him. Like, in my opinion, the person in that photo looks a lot older than Jack. However, the family of Kaylee has confirmed that that's Jack D in the photo, that he was sitting there on the bar stool hanging out with the girls. It's been confirmed. So it doesn't mean that what you're saying isn't true in general. That, I mean, BK could have been there too, right? They could have been doppelgangers at the bar. I mean, I'm being silly, but anything's possible. But also, the theme with BK, that True Crime Time, and I like that channel. I don't think I've caught that one yet. Yeah. So thanks for that great comment, Jay Keen. Thank you. Lisa says, Annie Ruler, if a system upgrade was happening, people knew about it or was called when it happened. If it was a system upgrade, correct. Yeah. Some people would have known about it. No apologies needed. Quality is what we love. We love your channel because it's packed full of quality information. Would you feel comfortable telling us your real name, or no, it's okay? I'll tell you why I'm not comfortable with my real name. So we'll just go with Xena, right? I love Jazz and Justice and Xena. I live in a really small town. That's why. So, I know a lot of content creators have their first name out there. Like Harsh's name is Sean, and we still call him Harsh. Tiffany's name is Tiffany, and we call her Zav. So, Shanda's really open about her name, Squirrels on Fire. Cass thinks is really open about, or Cass thinks is really open about her name. It's in her title. If that's her actual name, I mean, a lot of people use, kind of like a stage name kind of thing. Like, and Harsh Reality, that was his nickname in high school. And then you've got like Casey from Living Lake Time. These people repeat their names on their channels a lot. And at this point in my channel creation, I'd like to continue just to go Xena, which is pretty, like, it just feels great because, like, I love the idea of like the whole warrior princess deal, right? Let's all be warrior princes and princesses, justice warriors, right? So thanks for asking. I appreciate that. It's a good point, Lisa Rowe Waller Bridge. They usually do notify employees at least of some system updates, but I also don't believe in coincidences. Right, exactly. Kylie and Trinity, they are more connected than people think. Well, I do have my list right here handy of the million commonalities that I wrote out. Let's see, the list that I have in front of me is only 50. This is when I started whittling it down. It had grown at its largest to 75. And I did want to touch on a couple of those, the ones that are similar with the Idaho 4 case. All of these kids were in the company of their friends partying when they met their fates, their extremely unfortunate fates. So yeah, thank you for that, Sifa. I'm gonna highlight that one because I definitely think that they're connected. Trinity's boyfriend's mother was not only at Kylie Rodney's celebration of life, she might have you Googleized at her you Googly, right? I'm sorry. I have to say that again because it's just been going through my mind ever since last night when my mod said to practice that word that I wasn't saying accurately. And let me just share with you an old friend of mine who was reading an article about anexity. And he was talking to my mom, telling her all about this article that he read about anexity, and he read the article to her. And my mother is really smart and really tactful and really polite and very well read and has a vocabulary like nobody's business. So at the end of it, she was like, anexity, can I see how that's spelled? I've never seen that word. And she was like, oh, that's anxiety. He was so mad and very defensive. And he was like, no, it's anexity. But the whole article was about anxiety. So it made sense that it was just hilarious. So that's one of my little inside jokes. And so you Googleizing and you Googly and anexity, there's a few of them. I can tell you more silly ones of my kids, but that's for another show. Let's just get right back on track and stay focused, hyper focused, right? I watched some True Crime Bluff last night. Is it True Crime Bluff or True Crime Buff? I'm not familiar with that one. He was checking all cameras and views at defendant's route to and from crime scene. It showed a huge reference spot on corner of upper deck where BK might have left. Wow, interesting. It looks like your sentence got cut off. Annie Ruler says, one man creator says he never watches other channels, viewers not to name other channels. He just did, where did missing Elantra time go? Didn't most go over that weeks ago? I mean, I don't throw any shade at content creators who don't look at other channels. I think that that's fine, even if they miss things that other channels covered. Because not everyone has a lot of time to watch YouTube. And, if somebody wants to create their own channel, I think that's great. And they might have ideas that nobody else has come up with. They might have ideas that other people have come up with. I just know that as a content creator, I'm learning more and more that you really don't need to be watching other people's channels to do a good channel, in my opinion. I enjoy watching other people's channels, and it's a high priority for me. Um, However, if you don't have time, you don't have time. And maybe there's content creators that don't want to watch anyone else's channel because they don't want to be influenced. So thanks for the comment there. And where did missing Elantra time go? Yeah, I don't know. And yeah, the Elantra thing, I'm just curious if there's more than one Elantra, and I'm curious. Some people have said that the deceased BK, and that's a great way to term that, I think, for Brent Kopaka, um, deceased BK. Rumor that I've heard is that he drove a white Elantra. And then I've seen pictures of what looks like a white Elantra parked in front of Jack D's house right across the street. It's a very common car. It's everywhere, right? Um, let's see. Starting to think Brent was swatted by someone. Well, it's absolutely possible. A lot of people will get that notification of the system down. We don't know how much a big university simple controls in a tiny town. Yeah, good point, Lisa. Thank you, Liza. Sifa says, as creators, we can get some very unstable followers who might become a safety risk if certain info is put out there, which is why many choose anonymity with their names. Yeah, I mean, in this day and age, I think everyone needs to be careful, right? I mean, always, even before this day and age. What am I talking about? Personal safety is a thing, right? Sifa or Zifa, would you like to exchange paintings? Dilly Owens asked. Yeah, keep the moniker. 50 commonalities is significant in degree. Absolutely. I mean, even 10, but yeah, boiling it down to that distilled list is what I want to get to hopefully later this afternoon. We are already encroaching on the 50-minute mark. I think it controls a lot if Wi-Fi shut down and surveillance cameras use Wi-Fi. Yeah. How do you live without your Wi-Fi, right? Miss Amir Zaza, Sifa, you are extremely correct. Some followers become creeps and people have families and work environments to protect too. I think it's really important not to go real life. I think that's really, really important for everyone. Like personally, everyone's got their own opinion. And I'm not telling other people what to do, but personally, I don't think it's safe for content creators or the content consumers, shall we say, the viewers, don't think it's safe for those people to go real life on each other, period. I think electronic communication is how you should keep it, because then you always have a record. You can always go back and review. And I got that idea from a top content creator that I'm not going to name, but I think it's brilliant, and I think it's really just good practice. So that's my opinion. When I hear people talking about doing things like for instance, the Kylie Rodney music thing, it's like, that's a great idea in theory, but in real life, it might not. It would just take one wing nut to mess it all up for everybody, right? And they're out there. They are out there. Um, let's see. Someone is figuring things out. Good job, Justice. Well, you guys, you helped me so much. This is why I don't want to miss your comments. And I especially like tying them into the conversation, because if I go back and read them later, then I'm like, I missed that in the conversation. I mean, of course, I can take a note and try to plug it in somewhere else. I love true crime, but definitely don't have the time commitment and do research. And my job is to be the support and the watcher. And everybody's so important to me in true crime community. Even if you're just a lurker and you're watching and you're not commenting, that's still really, really important. And it's absolutely fine. Hey, Kaz, I sent you an email, sweetheart. I'll be laughing at the inexity. What about you Googleizing at the you Google G for the rest of the day now? So cute and disarms my anxiety extremely well. That's so cute. Thanks for that comment, Kaz. I love it. The roommates of Brent just walked out, no issue. It seems like a crazy escalation if it weren't a hostage situation. I know. And this guy being a Purple Heart Army vet with a head injury and PTSD, it's really disappointing that they didn't have expert de escalation, negotiation, high end, like the best in the country, that they didn't just have them there, even if just by electronic device, right? I read about a nurse whose patient son started stalking her and telling her mom died because she wasn't at work while she was being stalked by him. And telling her mom died because she wasn't at work while she was being stalked by him. I think I capture the gist of that. And yeah, I mean, stalking can happen anywhere, anytime. It's not new to the internet, but the internet makes it a lot easier for people that have that. And it's really sad. I mean, it's really sad when people are going to be twisted like that, when they're not having meaningful, satisfying relationships in their lives. It's awful all the way around. I mean, stalking is just a terrible thing. If she defendant was innocent, why didn't he went to the police about the car? If the defendant was innocent, why didn't he went to the police? That's a good question, Christina. But I mean, did they really have people coming to them saying, well, I drive a white Elantra? Most people are busy and they're probably like, there's a lot of white Elantras. And then the police get so overwhelmed and they say, oh, we have too many phone calls. We have 10,000 emails. How are we supposed to keep up? So yeah, they're not going to want everybody with a white Elantra to come in and talk to them, right? They never said that. But that's a good comment. Thank you. I'm sorry. It was True Crime Buff. Oh, okay, cool. True Crime Buff. Good to know. And it was a red spot or a dark spot on the outside corner of the deck, but the police would have seen it. Hey, back in the 18th and 19th century, even before women and some men adopted a pen name, society has always been very judgmental. Yes. And like for instance, Martin Sheen, his name is Robert Estevez, right? I mean, he's been famous since I was a kid. His name's Robert Estevez. Martin Sheen was what his producers or his handlers told him to pick. Or like Neil Diamond, that's not Neil Diamond's name. Most people with the last name Diamond, it's not their name if they're in the entertainment industry. It is a real last name. There's plenty of people with that last name. Anyway, hey, back. Yes, thank you. I refuse to meet anyone from online in person. Christina, with the corruption there, I wouldn't go to those cops. Yeah, it's so sad. It's so sad. GOP Nick, seems like Brent was swatted. Freedom of Information Act of BK may have them knowing each other. That's a lot of coincidences, in my opinion. Wouldn't he, the IT guy, and the two colleges shared information databases? Nice comment, Annie Ruler. Packed with a punch. Picture like your likes. The viewers are the most important for a channel. Without them, the creators are nothing. And we're always trying to remind people to hit that like button and to share and subscribe. And I like to remember that just watching, even if you don't hit the like button, don't share, don't subscribe, it's still like you're doing the content creator a huge favor just by watching, especially if you watch the whole thing. That's a thing in YouTube right now where like content creators get more credit or whatever for people watching the whole thing from start to finish rather than getting cut off and just watching a part of it. But sometimes, you have to jump around. You just don't have time to watch everything. BK had access to pure police stuff too, like all of the body cam stuff in the crime database. Oh, Maria says I'm lurking. I'm going to highlight that. That's cute. It's fine. We love lurkers here. Oh, and I want to welcome anybody that is their first time to my channel. Thank you so much for checking me out. And I want to welcome back everybody who it's not their first time checking me out. I really appreciate you all. So thanks again. And I can't believe I'm all caught up. The biggest and newest FBI server farm, yes, Idaho, at least that's what the government says. I'll take a look at the email. Thanks, hon. Thank you, honey. Sassafras, if he was working for police, why would he think he needed to go to them? Interesting question. I think I understand what you're coming from. That maybe that they were in on it. Is that what you're saying, Sassafras, or am I misinterpreting that? That if he was part of that group and they were that they were his, that he was their accomplice, or they were his accomplice, or they were each other's accomplices. Um, they used to use rubber bullets for the SWAT. Why did they switch to real ones? And then they've got their tasers, they've got their batons, they've got their mace. Um, it's really tragic to me to have that happen to anybody, but especially somebody who's got a head injury and PTSD from serving our country. That's just wrong, in my opinion. I mean, as long as they did everything possible, that's what's important, that they did everything possible to the best of their ability. Thank you so much for keeping Kylie Rodney on your mind and in your heart. She's always in my heart, always on my mind. Um, I'm late and lurking. I brought my awesome Liza today about the car. Okay, so Sassafras was saying about the car. If he was right, gotcha. Are your LE all corrupt? Hey, Christina. It's so sad. There's so many amazing, honest, hardworking, brilliant hero law enforcement officers of the law, and there's bad ones too, like we just saw with this whole thing in Memphis, the 5 that killed Tyree Nicholson. Am I getting his name right? I tried it last night and my mod was here to help me. I think it's Tyree Nicholson. That the video was released on Friday night, and then the 5 officers that murdered him that are all being charged, and they all got fired. Um, I mean, look at the law enforcement there in Truckee, in Nevada County, and Placer County. Look at the law enforcement in uh, the University of Washington State University and all that garbage that happened this past year. They play body camera of cops on Brent, but not the 911 call. 911 relaying alleged info, roommates out, etc. Wow. Tyree Nichols. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, Sifa. Somewhere this morning I saw Tyree Nichols' son, and I was like, really? I thought it was Nichols. Okay, good to know. It's nice to get people's names right, dead or alive, but especially when they're deceased. So, let's see. The things that we were mentioning last night that these cases have in common: the Idaho 4 with Kylie Rodney, the graduation, that's huge, right? The drugs, I think that's huge too. Money, also huge. Shady law enforcement, extremely huge. Potentially hazing. So, let's see. I wanted to say this about the law enforcement at Wazoo, the 4 that got themselves resigned. The police chief, the assistant police chief, the police captain, and the sergeant, Kurt, that then resigned a few months after them this past November. over all that scandal with his sexcapades all across campus. This is what I've always liked to say about people like that who get themselves resigned. All four of them, okay? They proved themselves utterly useless and were let go. How many years did they work there? How many years were they proving themselves to be completely useless and worse than useless, but actually destructive? They proved themselves to be destructive to public safety. So, and transparency. They proved themselves to be destructive to the law. That is how I would like to phrase it. Not just getting fired, not just getting resigned, but proving themselves to be complete wastes, and even beyond being a complete waste, being completely sinister and vile. Okay, enough, right? It's horrible what they did to Tyree. Is that how you say his first name? I hope so. I hope I'm not hacking it up. I hope that the creators will make a difference and will keep the law on their toes. Well, that's historically been the job of the media, the newspapers, the news, the investigative journalists, to keep people on their toes. But it's also the public. You know, anybody can write a letter to the editor, write a letter to their city commissioner, write a letter or an email to their police department. Community activism is a very essential part of a democracy. It's on every single one of us. It really is, you guys. That's what a democracy is all about. Without that, it's not a democracy. That's where it can turn into fascism. It's a slippery slope, in my opinion. Um, I'm crazy with the names. I don't know how I remember them. I know I'm amazed that I've been getting a lot better. I've been bad with names my whole life. I'm getting better. I'm always trying. Oh my God, I know it made me sick, Mrs. Amir. Just the other day, the DEA arrested sheriff from Pennsylvania for trafficking drugs, and apparently it's not the first one. I hope they do this for all law enforcement officials. Yeah, there's a lot of that type of crap going on. And yes, date of births, DOBs. I have to say, it's very disappointed that an investigation to take down drug traffickers takes 2 years. Squirrely Burger, you're talking about the one in Pennsylvania. One of the problems is that police have immunity, and they are also almost always part of a union, a police union that will protect them to the death, tooth and nail. That they are immune, because sometimes they will get involved in drug dealing as part of being undercover. And then sometimes they might get involved in drug dealing out of their own greed and then pretend that it's undercover. There's a lot of muddiness. There's a lot of crossing the wires. There's a lot of confusion in individuals. There's been some great movies made about such things. Um, I can't really think of the name of that one. Is it called Midnight Train? I'll have to look it up. That was like an old one about that kind of thing. But yeah, when government officials go undercover and try to infiltrate um, a system and a community, they can get really caught up in it. They can forget what they're doing, and just forget to be professional and just get caught up in their own stuff. Where are we? Resigning shouldn't be a way out. They should be criminally charged. I'm so glad I caught that one, Heather Mosier. Thank you. They should be criminally charged, and they were just starting to get, dealt with. They were just starting to get their discipline when they said, "No, thank you, we're gone." And yeah, that shouldn't have been allowed. But again, that whole thing with police immunity, it gets distorted, it gets taken advantage of, it gets abused. Racism and social class inequality, in my opinion. Yeah, there's so much of that. There's so much of that. Again, look at the case with Idaho 4. If these were not students, if this happened in a house. This is an off-campus house. Let's say that they're not students. Let's say that they're not white. Let's say that they're not from well-to-do families. Don't you think that the roommates that didn't call 911 would have been treated much more aggressively? Um, I mean, they're being coddled. And I will admit, at first, I felt very strongly that they needed to be coddled and that they needed to be excused and given a free pass because of all their PTSD and PTSD shock. But that is only to a certain extent. Again, public safety and transparency need to be weighed out with that. And they need to be 100% transparent about everything they saw and experienced, right? And they got some splaining to do about why it took them so long to call 911. Why were they able to use their phones to call their friends and summon them, and what were they doing in that time? Those are the most important questions. And if they were doing illegal activities like disposing of illegal substances, they need to admit that. They probably won't get prosecuted for that because that's not important right now. But they can't hide anything. Nothing. You can't hide anything in a situation like this. Absolutely not. Really sorry for all of those cases in the corruption. Jumped. Okay. You as the people should demand a change. We as the people, Christina, aren't you one of us? Yes, we all need to demand change, I believe. I think it's many things, definitely, and nothing, in my opinion, will ever be a good enough excuse to do that to another person. Miss Amir. Um, hey, Michael McAllister, welcome back. Definitely looked like that. I saw a California Highway Patrol officer has a YouTube channel, and he started in 2020, but hasn't posted anything up until the Idaho murders. He has taken on squashing the drug theory. We'll see. Most law enforcement are not allowed to have any kind of social media content at all that relates to their work. That's usually part of a contract that they sign in their employment. It's just a code of ethics. So, there's just a lot that can't be disclosed. So that's highly unusual. Ms. Amir Zaza, when a police department accepts and creates officers with a bare minimum of college credits and criminal history, things can get murky. We will have trouble. Most police departments do not require any college at all. Most police departments simply require the police academy, which usually is, say, at a community college or at a college. It's a certificate. It's usually a 9-month program, I think. It varies from state to state. But there are police departments that require bachelor's degrees. And I think that's a good idea, personally. But, what do I know? And maybe a bachelor's degree in the criminal law, right? A bachelor's degree, like pre-law. I mean, they have to know so much about the law. And if they had a bachelor's degree and the police academy training, maybe they could just get a bonus. Maybe they could get paid more for having that. And so that would inspire more to do it. And even when they're police officers, they could maybe go to school part-time and have it be paid for. Although I don't know how realistic that is if they want to have a life too and sleep. He hadn't posted anything since early 2024, and that must be a typo since we're in 2023. Or 5 videos, or maybe he meant, okay, or since early 2020, maybe, and then 24 or 5 videos prior to dismantling the drug theory in the Idaho case. We'll see. And maybe he was put up to it because, like I said, law enforcement officials are not allowed to be on social media touching or sharing anything about law enforcement, period. I mean, unless they're like the Facebook spokesperson for their department. That's pretty much the only exception. So perhaps he was sent into the streets of YouTube to do that because they're covering. That makes me so suspicious. Thank you for saying that, Squirrely Burger. Are our officers receiving the proper training, or is it here's your badge and gun, friend? I think most receive the proper training, but what is important is that they stay on their toes and they keep active with their training. They have to put a lot of time into training. If they're not in a big city where they're using all of their training every day, and even if they are in a big city where they're using all their training every day, they still need to keep their skills sharp for de-escalation. If they're in an area where there's not a lot of crime and they're mostly dealing with arguing neighbors and, people's dogs running loose and stuff like that, they still need to be ready to go at the drop of a hat for something like this, or for like a bank robbery, because these things happen and they have to be ready because they're the go-to. GOP Nick says, I think Dylan is sus. Well, she's looking that way in my eyes, and especially if her mother works at the university and her father is a county prosecutor that arrested some of her roommates' parents, or pressed charges against some of her roommates' parents, and those roommates have been brutally slaughtered. Why has the smoke not cleared by now? Good question. Squirrely Burger. Oh, wow. That's very interesting. Kind of ironic for CHP. Still wonder why Hunter, a triplet, has his vehicle towed on the 13th. Would expect if he is helping cover up anything from home of 1122 will not be in there, in my opinion. And so Hunter's vehicle and Ethan's vehicle, so two of those triplets vehicles, and they were towed like 3 weeks after the event, the crimes of the 13th, and then they were placed in non-secure situation. So they were not secure there for 3 weeks, and then they were taken to another location where they were not secure. So it's just weird. I mean, that's just not good practice. My question is, with everything happening in California, how can ICHP office or possibly have time to create and produce a YouTube channel on top of his job? That's a very good question. That's a brilliant question. Unless he's getting paid and that's part of his job. They're like, dude, go pretend you're like an independent YouTube channel, when really he's doing it for work. That's part of his job description right now. How long does it take to get rid of drugs? Half an hour tops. Very good question. Unless they're in your system, GOP Nick, if you're high as a kite on those drugs, like let's just say LSD, mushrooms, something like that, you're going to need about 8 hours probably to come down. I mean, there's probably some things you can do to help get it through your system, like drinking lots of water, maybe drinking milk, eating protein, just resting, just meditating, sleeping, maybe even a hot shower to help sweat it out through your pores. Didn't WSP or WE Police Department, in this case, create a YouTube channel just around the time of this case? I have not heard that. So, do you mean Washington State Police or WE Police? Do you mean the Wazoo, the Washington State University? If they did, that's some good information. Thank you, Sassafras. It's something to look into. Squirrely and I see that Dr. Latina is on now. And how is everyone doing today? Dr. Latina is on right now. Like, well, we're ready to hang this one up anyway. So you guys, I will hope to see you this afternoon. Let's say about 1:30. Yeah, let's say 1:30. And we'll try to keep it short since we just did such a long one. I know that there's things I'm missing. Dr. Latina just sent me a notification. Thank you, Michael McAllister. I wonder what she is on with right now. How exciting. I'm from another people's country. Murdoch murder trial. He was in law. Right. That is atrocious. It's atrocious. It's taken this long. I can't even watch it because it just makes me so sick. But at least he's getting put through the justice system now, finally. Training is all good, but well, if your police department discourages honesty, then there's no winning. That's a really good point, Squirrely Burger, because there are some that are like that. So yeah, if your supervisors are corrupt, they set the tone for the whole department. And then if the officers are not corrupt, they're not going to do well in that department and they're not going to like it and they're going to want to leave. I feel bad that I went to bat for Dylan. It's amazing what comes out over time. I don't think there's any reason to feel bad for trying to help somebody when you think they're in a position where they need help. I mean, I certainly don't feel bad, and I was really advocating to leave her alone. And the other day, in our chat, who was it that came up with it was somebody in the chat when we were talking about it that said, "Leave them alone, roommates." And we were talking about the Chris Watts case and the guy Jim, "Leave him alone, Jim, leave him alone." So that's bled over into this case, the "leave them alone, roommates." So they don't have names anymore. They're just the "leave them alone, roommates," right? But who was it who said to leave them alone? I'm thinking it was the media who said to leave them alone. And I'm thinking the media was probably told by the officials, the administration of the university, of the law enforcement to leave them alone, which would make a lot of sense if Dylan's mother worked for the university and her father or uncle is the DA in a neighboring community or neighboring county. Yeah, they'd say, "Leave them alone, back off, don't you touch these girls." They would be protecting them with their lives. um okay, GOP Nick, how many hours from now? If we do 1:30, that would be like 3.5 hours, so we're just about to say, oh, Sifa says she's not live, Dr. Latina. Well, she was just like posting for her next live because she said on her live the other night that she was going to be doing one sometime this week with that same panel to finish up on the Trinity Bacchus case. So let me see what else I got here that I haven't touched on, if there's anything I've missed. Um, I wanted to hit home the fact about the Wazoo police sergeant that had the wild sexcapades that he got himself resigned over. I wanted to hit home that he admitted the wrongdoing the same way Wu admitted the wrongdoing, and they were still made of Teflon and immune for a while. I mean, Wu's still right where he wants to be. That hasn't caught up with him yet that I know of. It took a couple of years to catch up with Kurt and bite him on his rear end. But the fact that they admitted it and then Kurt was still there for 2 years and Wu admitted it and he's still there, gross. Absolutely gross. Crazy. All right. So you guys, I'm going to get ready to sign off here. Let's read a few more. I'm turning on the other screen. I'm slow in the mornings, Liza. Again, welcome over to the channel. Thanks for visiting and checking us out. Thanks for the referral, Sifa. My guess for Hunter's toe job was too many footprints in the slushy snow. And, there wasn't that much snow that night when the murders happened, I don't think. But there was a lot of snow probably a couple of days later. It seems like it snows a lot there, doesn't it? OMG, I got a cheeky cat sat on my living room windowsill staring in and giving my Rottweiler the evil eye. That's some good drama right there, right? I see nothing for her channel for anything. And talking about Dr. Latinas. Sometimes our YouTube does weird stuff, you guys. There's a lot of hiccups in the YouTube. And Sifa, did you get that problem figured out about you were having trouble with the chat last night and you emailed me and said maybe you were shadow banned or something? Because yeah, there's a lot of hiccups that occur, I've noticed. That about 5:30 my time. Not sure what that means. I love your morning streams because it's a nice midday activity for me. Oh, right, you're over there in the across the pond over there in the UK. Oh my, have the info on those cops. I cannot understand how those cops had their jobs. Right. Okay. So let's see. So the most important thing with law enforcement, whether it's good law enforcement or bad law enforcement, the most important thing is public safety. That's what they're there for. They're there to protect and serve. And transparency is the law because it's essential to keep us safe that there's transparency. Like if there's a shooter in our neighborhood, law enforcement needs to let us know that there's a shooter in our neighborhood, right? They can't say, well, it's under investigation right now, so we can't tell anybody while they're actively pursuing a shooter in the neighborhood. That's a bad idea. That's going to get people shot. They need to let people know there's a shooter in your neighborhood. We're coming through, honker down or do what you need to do to be as safe as possible. I mean, if there's a shooter in your neighborhood, you should treat it like a hurricane. You should go into your cellar. You should go into a small room in the middle of the house with no windows, no doors, or, like a closet or a bathroom or something like that, and get down like into the bathtub, like surround yourself with bulletproof whatever. If you have kids, you want to like lay your body on top of them. And because as we all know, the bullets can come through the walls and such. All right. Where's we at? Here's some haven't even graduated since high school, believe me, totally sick. And you probably are talking about the police officers, reminding me of a really good point, Miss Azir Zaza. The criminal defendant did not graduate high school, I believe. He completed a GRE, so he got his high school diploma. So I don't know if you would, the verbiage, if that would be congruent with graduating high school. I mean, obviously, with a diploma, you can get into college, but very few people who have a GED go to college, let alone graduate school, let alone a doctoral program. So that's just a interesting, I'm not going to say that's a red flag. That's just a yellow flag. That just makes you wonder what's going on. Though often unsaid in police reform debates, numerous court precedents have established that cops aren't obligated to act in the interest of citizens. Right, but they are. I know that there's precedents for that. Can't remember what police department involved in this case it was, but they made a YouTube channel. Info is from Enchanted Life Paths channel. Google police duty to protect. Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's disheartening, isn't it? So let's go ahead and wrap it up, you guys. We'll get back into the list of this distilled down the similarities of these cases. The big one to me is that with the Idaho 4, with Kylie Rodney, with Trinity Backus, is they were all with friends in a seemingly safe party type of situation. So I wouldn't say that partying isn't necessarily safe. I would say be careful who your friends are, right? Choose, keep your friends close and your enemies closer, but be really careful who you trust. And in my opinion, my personal opinion is trust no one. You can trust yourself, and that's about it, in my opinion. So I'm going to sign off without reading the last few just because we're already approaching an hour and a half. So I'll read them after we hang up. I want to say peace out, you guys. Have a great day. I'll see you early this afternoon around 1:30. And make sure you get all of your hydration and nutrients, high protein, produce, fruits and veggies. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to other people. Be forgiving to yourself and forgiving to other people. Relax and stretch and get some fresh air and sunshine, breathe, and that's about it. Just, keep your eye on the ball. And thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you guys. I'll see you later today, hopefully. Thanks.